You always have to be 100%. A single doubt can influence your whole career. I had everything to lose. My parents' life savings. We put the house on loan. I was like, maybe I should just quit and be an Uber driver. You know, one moment where you perform your best and you get a seat.
Bianca Bustamante made history in the first Pinoy ever to win in F1 Academy race.
What do you tell yourself to stay motivated with all of that pressure on top of your shoulders?
When I'm on track, I feel like a superhero because it is the best version of myself. The toughest thing to do is actually find friends.
Right then, we've got another episode of the Quadcast, and today we've got on quadrant athlete and GB3 racer Bianca Bustamante. Welcome in.
Hello. Hi everyone. Thanks for having me here.
How have you been today? You alright?
Good, yeah. We started the day with some filming. Got to see some of the new apparels coming out. So that was pretty cool. Got to speak with designers and everything. And obviously you were there as well, giving me a little bit of a tour. So that's great. I've never actually been to the headquarters.
I know, welcome in.
Nice.
This is
what
new.
do you think? It's pretty cool. Hey?
It is pretty cool. It's very homey as well. And
It's
everyone's
really
very family.
And I get slowly slouched during the podcast.
Yeah, I get sleepy on this couch. It's kind of nice. Well, I hope you feel comfortable because then we can ask you all of the weird and wonderful questions.
Looking forward to it.
Well, should we start where it all started with you and how you got into motorsport?
Yeah, so I'm from the Philippines. Both my parents are full Filipino. I grew up there, was born there, and I guess it's part of the world where motorsport isn't really well known. Not a household sport like when you go to UK. Obviously, it's the home of motorsport, quite literally. So because of that, I found it very difficult initially to get into the sport. You know, I feel like if your dad, obviously, you know, if you come from a family that's not really well versed in motorsport, it is quite difficult and quite daunting space to get into. So initially I found it very difficult. But I was very blessed and thankful that, you know, my dad was an avid fan. He'd watch every race. He obviously couldn't go to the race himself because it's so expensive to travel abroad because F1 doesn't come to Philippines. So he's made it his personal endeavor to turn me into a racing driver.
He's done pretty well.
Yeah, a little project. So, he was a bit surprised. Obviously, I came out to be a girl because back then, I think my parents didn't really know if I was going to be a boy or a girl. I think they kept my gender hidden until I came out. So my dad, found out I was a girl. And so he's realized that, oh gosh, I think it'll be difficult for you to be a driver being a girl. Because back then it wasn't really, a thing then. It was a bit more difficult. So I think that's kind of what initially started. It was through my dad, really.
But that's quite impressive that even then he was quite confident in pushing you to go for it as a woman. Because he would know, firsthand from watching it, that it just wasn't a thing to have females.
I mean, back then, obviously, 2 decades ago, the only time you'd ever see a girl at the track was, grid girls and, podium girls and all that stuff. So I think because of that, there's a huge stigma around it, especially in Asia, because in Asia, the women in the house are often the ones doing the chores. They're not out pursuing difficult career paths or doing too much. They're often taking care of the family. So that's kind of how you'd look at a woman in a family. So I'm really glad that my parents weren't, the classic Asian parents. They kind of broke the stigma and told me that, you go chase at it, we'll support you. We didn't have a lot financially, so that made it rather difficult.
Yeah.
If you're out at a Grand Prix with your mates, you don't need to worry about all the maths when splitting bills. You can split bills with Revolut at the touch of a button and send them reminders if they're slow to pay you back. And if you're abroad or in need of cash, Revolut also has you covered with the no Revolut fee withdrawals worldwide at ATM within your plan allowance. And Revolut's ATM Finder feature easily shows you the nearest ATMs, and you can filter to only show the ones that are surcharge free. A huge thank you to Revolut for sponsoring this video. You can check out the link below or the QR code on screen and sign up to Revolut and get £20, $20 or 40 Australian dollars after using the card just once. So you started karting in Philippines? Because I actually have a fun fact. I won my first ever
you did
race.
Asian Karting Open Championship, ACOP.
I won my first ever race in Manila, That was Is that track still there? I don't
Carmona.
Even
Is it
that's
Carmona?
It, Carmona.
Yes.
Have you
really?
driven around there? Obviously.
Oh yeah, that's where I drove for the first time. Oh,
Really?
that's insane.
Yeah, I won my first ever race there.
Oh, cool. Which
Good track,
team?
actually.
It is, yeah, it's pretty cool. So they've actually revamped the track. So they've added a sector 3. So
Really?
you know the last corner is called Heavenly.
Briefly, I mean, I was like 9 years old, so this is quite a long time ago now, but yeah.
Yeah, so the last corner now, instead of a hairpin, they've added a whole new like sector.
Oh wow, nice.
So it's a lot more technical now.
Awesome.
Yeah, grew up racing there. So that's cool. What year was it?
That was 2009.
Oh gosh,
When did
yeah,
you
way
first do your
before my
laps
time.
around there?
Yeah, when was the first time you even
I
sat
was
in a
born
car?
2005, so
Okay, wow. So
yeah.
when was like day one you first drove something and was like, this is it, this is what I want to do?
It might actually. I was actually 3 years old when I first started. So with baby
That's
carts,
crazy.
yeah,
That is wild.
yeah. I guess safety wasn't really priority.
No.
It was kind of just like go. So yeah, I started when I was 3. My dad brought, because in the Philippines we don't have go-karts. Well, we had go-karts, but we didn't have this thing called baby carts. That's kind of like, you know, like the cadet class and the 60cc engine. They're about like 4 to 6 year olds. So it's like how you initially start, and they didn't sell those in the Philippines. So my dad imported it from like America or like Europe and brought it to Philippines, and that's how I started driving.
Wow.
And were you literally just like in the garden, or were you straight onto a track at 3 years old?
I was straight to a track. I went straight to a track. I remember crashing. I think that was my very first memory of like being in a go-kart. My dad was like, yeah, you should go and try it. I was like, I could barely walk.
Oh my
probably.
gosh.
I could barely like.
Three.
That's crazy. I love your dad. I love it.
It's really early.
Oh yeah, he was determined. He's like, yeah,
You're doing
gonna,
it.
you're gonna make it. On my watch, you're gonna make it.
Did you ever have a moment where you didn't love it? Because it seems like, you know, you started at 3 and like you are where you are now. Was there ever a moment where you're like, do you know what, actually?
Yeah, looking back to it is, wow, it's quite a while ago, being 3 years old.
Yeah.
It's been my whole life since. Like a lot of the drivers will probably resonate with me, or a lot of athletes in general, when they say that they literally live and breathe their sport. You know, they have to, because that's the only way to kind of succeed.
Yeah.
And it is very tiring. Like, I mean, I remember like thinking even last night, I was like, maybe I should just quit and like be an Uber driver. So.
That's so funny.
Because sorry to interrupt you there, but I found kind of the more I went up the ranks towards like F4, F3, you know, all the sponsors start to come on board, and then I slowly found the fun kind of went away, and that pressure can almost overwhelm you and take away that enjoyment.
100%.
How do you deal with balancing that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's why I feel like for me, obviously, the life now is fun. It's, you know, you're racing abroad, you're traveling different places, you're driving a fast car, like a car that I never dreamt of even like, you know, driving. But like, but I think back to it, and like the purest moments were always in karting. You know, when you're out with mates and you're driving around,
Yeah, you look
you're
back,
like,
it's like these were the best times.
oh yeah. I look back to it, I'm like, I remember like, you know, having a banter with my mates and like dive bombing and like crashing into them, and it's like bumper to bumper racing, and you fight, you quarrel, it's fun, it's unfiltered. And I look back, I'm like, oh wow, that's like,
They were the best times.
they were, and like no pressure, no media, no obligations. But as you grow up, you realize, oh damn, you gotta mature. You gotta live up to, you know, the weight on your shoulders.
And also, I guess it kind of becomes your job as well.
It is.
Because, you know, you've said before, like, you have to earn the money to be able to race, and it becomes this circle. Like, the higher up you race, the more money you need to be able to race.
It is. It's like you're always chasing your tail with racing, you know, because like you think you've made it. Well, actually, no, because then you need to fund the next season, and then the next, and then the next, and it doesn't really ever stop.
No.
Because, you know, like I currently race in GB3 now, but gosh, did be like the amount of money spent just to even make it to GB3, and then you look forward and you're like, gosh, I'm like a million miles away from making it to Formula 1 or F2 or F5, F3, and you still
It always feels still so far away.
Yeah, it does.
Even say, for example, when I was in F3, I was in the Renault Academy. I got to test F1 cars, but it still felt so far away.
Also, yeah,
Even though now I take a step back, I was like, wow, I was actually quite close, but in the moment, it was not something I was ever even thinking
It
of.
is, and you're not really conscious of like the steps you've made because you're always focused on what else you have to do.
Yeah.
So I find that a bit like that's really, you know, like last year, my mental health really had a dip because it was just like everything all at once. It was the media, it was, you know, social media, and then the real media, it was, you know, marketing, it was sponsorship, it was racing, it was being an athlete, you know, like actually training and then having to go to an event right after, and then obviously performing during a race weekend when it all matters. So balancing all of that, it's like, it's so difficult. Like I can't even explain how difficult it is. And that's why I have so much, you know, admiration for like the people that they did make it, you know, the ones that are in F1, because I guess they were in kind of my position now a few years back, or like Mac's position. And I'm like surprised that they were able to cope with everything, because I'm thinking back and I'm like, gosh, I'm like, I don't really know how I'm doing it.
Because I watched F1 Academy series the other day on Netflix. I think I watched the entire thing in a day. It was really good. And it was interesting, like you got quite a lot of stick for the social media stuff and like the marketing side of it, which is kind of crazy because you have to do that. Like, you don't get to race, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand that. Like you can't just wake up in the morning and jump in a race car. You can't train and be the best, but then just 100%. Go out and do it on your own.
But like that's the funny thing is like people tell you, oh, you should focus on racing, but like I can't.
Yeah.
Because how can I afford to test?
Exactly.
The only way to get better, I think it's like one of the sports where, you know, you have basketball or like football, you can dribble and practice and train as much as you want. And that's all down to, you know, like your willingness to train hard. But with racing, you can like want to train, want to test, but you can't afford it.
No, you need 20,000 a day minimum.
20,000 a day, exactly.
It's completely different.
And
to
the
get
higher you
in.
go up the rankings, the more expenditure is, and like, you know, like right now in GB3, testing's about 15 to 20,000, you know, dollars like a day. Like where do you find that? Like it's not
crazy.
It's not just pocket change, you know. It's not like buying a new pair of shoes for basketball or new pair of ball, you know. It's like it's expensive, and that is the only way to afford it, unless of course if you've got, you know, the support of your family and financially and all that stuff. You know, everyone's got different parts, and I think that's why F1 Academy is also very cool, because, you know, in my end, it showed so much vulnerability and just the realness of the sport. You know, like I had other competitors were very well off, like the Alcabasi sisters, and they didn't have to go through the same struggles I did, because obviously I have to earn every single penny I spend on racing. You know, I left home when I was 16. I've been financially independent since. I've had to work for every food or allowance and flat, you know, roof over my head, every travel, every hotel, you know, and because I wanted to take the burden away from my parents. So I've had to be, you know, I had to live for myself. I had to work and earn money for my own. And so that's kind of like my struggle. And not every driver's face that. And we all kind of have those differences, right? But like with F1 Academy, it is true. I did struggle last year. It was a lot. But, you know, if I didn't do any of them, I wouldn't be in GB3. So it's like a double-edged sword.
So what do you say to yourself with all that pressure? Obviously, you're providing for yourself. You've got sponsors, brands you're dealing with, and you've got all that on top of you, and you're obviously funding yourself, as you say. So you have a tough weekend and you're sat in the truck after the race. Like, I know what that's like. What do you tell yourself to stay motivated and push on for that next weekend with all of that pressure kind of on top of your shoulders?
Gosh, that's a very, very good question. And there's never a right answer for it as well. But it's like one of those, you know, some days it's easier, some days it's just tougher. It's like, you know, it's never a constant. It's never like, oh yes, I'm good mentally, I'm okay, I'm all right. You know, it's never like that. You know, every day is kind of different. And when those, you know, tough days do come, whenever, you know, obviously a crash or qualifying last, you know, the worst thing possible, or like a DNF, it's hard to pick yourself up, because like you look back to everything that you've done and all the sacrifices and all the money you spent, and you look what's in front of you, and it's like, I've got nothing. Of like, you know, you feel like a constant failure of just like after a bad race and another bad race. It's like, a rabbit hole and you can't get yourself out. It's the hardest thing ever, especially during a race weekend when the emotions are so high. You know, you go from a bad quali, you P-last, like it's so hard to pick yourself up and then face the race, you know, face everything.
I think also because you're constantly fighting for a seat as well.
It is everything. Like your every move is always being scrutinized by everyone, the media, the race, the team, and so you always have to perform in the moment. I think racing is one of the sport where all it takes is like one moment where you perform your best and you get a seat, you know, and it's like, you know, all these F1 drivers, like they've made it, and there was a moment in their careers where they performed and they got the seat. For example, like who was it? Was it Ollie Bierman? He I think he stepped in. Which race was it?
Saudi with Ferrari, wasn't it? He got that chance.
He got that chance and he got into the points, and it's like that moment that 100% probably is the reason why he made it to Formula One. It's like performing in the pressure.
So you're literally chasing a moment. It's not even a race. It's
a
moment.
Because it's hard to win every race. You know, it's hard to perform. You know, it's hard to win a championship, to be a championship race winner. So, you know, when you are called up to that moment, it's so important to be 100%, no doubt. Like, you know, I think of myself, like, if I get called up to go race in Formula One, I'm definitely not ready. Like, you know, it's like that doubt that you can't have when you're racing. You always have to be 100%. A single doubt can influence, you know, your whole career, your whole race, everything.
Do you think, because you were saying that you moved out when you were 16, and like, you know, we've spoken to a couple of athletes now who are young, like you're 20. Do you think you've had to grow up too fast?
Oh yeah, like I didn't really have a sense of childhood because it was always in the pressure, in the limelight, the weight on your shoulders. It's always like, you know, facing defeat. Like, how do you learn how to lose? I feel like for me that was the hardest lesson ever. I couldn't like take it whenever I was slow or I was 2 seconds off. And I feel like learning that at such a young age, yes, it's a great lesson, but at the same time, it's a double-edged sword because everything then feels so black and white. Everything feels like there's an ultimatum. So I feel like that's like one of the things I kind of hate about myself.
But I think, like, especially as a teenager, that's very normal for everything to feel a lot bigger than it is, whatever you're doing. Like, you know, look at teenagers at school, like school becomes your whole life.
Yeah.
You think it's so much bigger. And it's not until you get a little bit older that you can sort of rationalise a little bit more. But for you to have those emotions and then all the pressure and the fact that you're doing it yourself, so if you don't perform, it's way more than just losing a race. It's like,
everything gone the drain. Yeah, your whole career.
It feels like the end of the world, doesn't it?
It does. Oh, a lot of weekends,
It's the same. I was going away go-karting 12, 13 on my own, and you're like on your own at 12, 13 years old around a team of people you don't really know, and you have to grow up so fast. And it's definitely a tough environment, especially at such a young age, as you know. And it's hard to kind of mentally put everything together and try and make sense of it. And yeah, it was something I definitely struggled with. I felt like my whole childhood, you had to grow up so fast. And
you do, and it's not the same pace as everyone else is learning as well. So then you grow up and then you realize that, oh, I feel so different from the people around me.
Yeah.
That was something I wanted to ask you as well, because how, like, your friends, because I'm guessing you don't go home.
Non-existent.
I was going to say, like, you don't go home much anymore because you're literally around the world.
Yeah.
Who are your people?
Like, I feel like it's been one of like the toughest like thing to do is actually find friends. I'm really struggling to find friends. Like, I feel so awkward because I didn't grow up the same way they did. I didn't go through the same phases in life. You know, I think I'm worried about making ends meet. I'm worried about funding my next race, and they're worried about, you know, prom or like homecoming or like
normal people stuff.
Like, no, but no, it's the beauty of it as well. Like, I adore them. I adore, you know, the fact that they get to, you know, like live in the moment and not have that feeling of like constantly chasing something and worrying and thinking if they're enough, if they're doing enough, because, you know, they didn't have to go through, you know, that kind of trajectory in life, and I admire that. I admire the purity in that. So that's why I think I find it difficult to find friends, because I'm like, complaining
It's
about.
hard to relate as well.
It is.
I've only
It's
got
hard.
4 friends, and they're all my teammates from go-karting, so that's it. I do relate to this for sure.
And what was it like in the paddock? Because obviously we saw like F1 Academy, we saw the series, and like, you're a group of girls that obviously have a lot in common. But I'm guessing it's uber competitive because you're fighting for the smallest of opportunities that you want to get. So is it friendly or is it just competition?
I mean, oh gosh, it is.
I'm not getting you to dish all the gossip.
No.
You can.
You can. I'm up for this.
I mean, I don't know. It's just different. I feel like there's a vast difference of like a paddock full of just female drivers and a mixed paddock. There's just like many differences, it's like how boys, they pick a fight, they punch each other, and everything's all right, like what happens on track, it stays on track, and it never really, like, you don't really speak about it, it's like, hey, sorry about that, mate, and then it's gone, it's
done.
past.
You give them a weird look at lunch and then you're right.
Yeah, exactly.
Later, That's kind of what it is.
And then you just forget about it, it's like nothing even happened, like, but I guess girls are, especially me, I kind of wear my heart on my sleeves, like, I'm quite emotional. You'll see that in a documentary. I pour my heart out every time on track. But that's also because I had to live life with an ultimatum. If I didn't perform well, I won't get X, Y, Z. If I don't
had a
win,
lot to lose.
yeah, I had everything to lose. It's like my parents' life savings, like everything. We put the house on loan. Like it's if I lose,
I'm feeling stressed.
Every time you go up a step, you know that this could be just your last season. Like racing is like that, and it can just end.
It's so heartbreaking as well, because like you're driving as best as you can, but then you've got the pressure of that if you drive too fast and you overdrive, you can crash, and a single crash, like
costs loads, and
like
it's also quite
20,
dangerous.
30, 40,000
Might hurt
pounds,
a
dollar.
bit.
And you just know that you can't afford that. So that's also like another thing about racing, when it's everything, it all boils down to financial, right? So for someone that has to like race with everything like on my shoulders, like my parents back home and the financial difficulties on top of my head, like it's meant that I had to harbor everything, it's like I'm racing for my life, and the others are racing, for fun. Some are very serious, some are very, disciplined and everything, but others they don't take it to heart as much as I do. So yeah, there are those differences on track, like, but then I entered, GB3, which is a mixed category, and it's my first time racing single seaters in a mixed category, like a whole season. And one thing I learned is this: boys are just like, they're so easygoing. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so shocked.
Girls are complicated.
Yeah, girls are like,
so complicated.
I remember like during the F1 Academy, like if all three of us had a bad race, we'd just go inside the driver's room and just cry, like all together, and just be like, yeah, it's it's such a bad race, and then walk out like teary-eyed and everything. And boys are just like, I'll do better next race, something like that, or like, car is shit.
I've used that sentence many times.
Car is shit, we'll get him next time, and then walk out as if nothing happened.
Rolling and landing on top of the barrier, and I was like, just glad I'm alright, we'll crack on tomorrow, the car's fine, so everything's good.
Exactly, and that was like the main
Everyone
difference.
approaches it differently, it's not, there's not one correct way. Anyway, while we're talking about F1 Academy, I wanted to know your thoughts on, how do you feel, F1 Academy is based off an F4 car, right? Do you feel like that kind of holds you back? Because, I mean, for the most of similar age guys are probably racing F3 and F2 already. And do you feel like the F4 car is maybe holding a lot of you women back, and it's not enough experience for then when you jump in GB3, does that feel like a big step and you're behind?
Because that is the thing, like, everyone, because there is no pathway for a lot of the girls, women in motorsport, there is no pathway because no one's made it to Formula One. So we're always following what the boys are doing, if the guy is doing F4 age 16, then I have to be doing it age 16 or whatsoever, because we're just following what was, the pathway of how guys are doing it.
It's like a race to the top.
It's
You've
like
got
a race
to try
to
and
the
do
top
everything.
when it actually isn't, because
it's not beneficial for you.
It's not, because you there's a lot of study into it. Boys and girls, they're just built different. They're hardwired different. Mentally, physically. Boys, they have puberty and everything, growth spurts. They build muscle, and we girls don't have that. For us to reach our peak, maturity, brain, body, and mind is a lot later compared to a guy. Like, you see 16-year-old boys, and all of a sudden they hit puberty, and their voice are deep. They've got so much muscle, and girls.
For that.
And girls, we don't really have that. We don't have that big jump.
Yeah.
That's why it's really difficult to follow the same footstep as guys similar to our age, because we don't grow the same way, really. I'm 20, but honestly, like, there wasn't a big jump, like...
I guess it's more gradual.
It's more gradual, so you have to be patient with it. You can't really follow what the boys are doing. And I, honestly, I'm so big on that, because like you said, it is a race to the top. You have to be the first this, first that,
like guys are getting into F1 now younger and younger,
Yeah,
and you almost feel like you're just getting behind.
Literally like babies.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, I'm not a racing driver, I'm just going to put it out there now, but I love driving and I love doing a bit of track stuff. And like, I've, watched you, like I've watched this series and I've followed you and what you do, and like, it's incredibly inspirational. But I'm looking at myself and I'm 24. I'm too old. I'm basically too old to start properly and do it. Like, I've missed the boat, which is insane. Like,
well,
I'm in my early 20s.
Like you've
20 years too late.
Literally 20 years too late. I wasn't a go-kart age 3, which is crazy.
It is, but at the same time, actually, like, again, it's different, like, it is too late, but that's only because you're following the books that was written by men in the sport.
True.
And that's why a lot of people think, oh, it's too late for me, because Kimi Antonelli is in a Formula 1 at the age of 18. Like, realistically, it's a generational talent. All these stars align. That's why he's there. And obviously, he's extremely gifted. But it doesn't mean that doesn't mean that it's from God. It's a book written by God. That it's gospel, that you have to follow every single thing the way he did it. Because again, it is just different. And I 100% agree with F1 Academy and using Formula 4 cars, because F4 is the first step of single seaters.
Yeah, naturally,
it naturally is what you do. It is F1 Academy. During my first year, I was racing. I was like 18. Yeah, first year of F1 Academy. I was racing against 24-year-olds, 25-year-olds. My teammate Marta, she was 23. She was like 5 years older than I was, and it's so different. Like, she's 23, but she's still growing up and maturing and getting stronger and still, just a different trajectory. So I feel like F4, it teaches you so much, core values and how to drive a race car without so much risk as well. So it kind of like, it focuses a lot on driver development, because the thing is that when you jump straight to F3, you're talking about strategy, pit stop, or like super softs and different tire compounds and different driving techniques, especially now with the different tire compounds. It's put the window performance a lot shorter during qualifying. So now it's like out, one push in.
So even
That's
more
literally
You
it.
literally get one lap.
You
It's
get one
tough.
lap in F3 in quali to nail that. And I don't feel like that's a driver development, like, I don't think you can develop as a driver if you put girls straight into F3. It's kind of just like, they're, put us to fail, really. So that's why I think F4 is the best thing to learn in, because it's so forgiving, and that's what the other, boys
For sure,
and
I think
girls are
anyone
doing.
that goes into single seaters, you have to do F4.
You have to, yeah.
Would you say that, I think there's another barrier, I don't know what your opinions and maybe some of the other women in F1 Academy think, that when you get to F3 and F2, they don't have power steering. And I found, even for myself, when I was training and I was fit, the steering was extremely heavy. And as you said, physically, you're different. But then it's almost an irrelevant barrier, because you don't have power steering in F2 and F3. But once you get to F1,
Exactly.
it's light
That's
again.
so
So it's
weird.
almost something
It's so
that's kind of blocking you.
Yeah.
for no reason, because it's not relevant at the top level.
It is. That's why it's so counterintuitive. It really is, because like, you know, you obviously you do F4, you know, it's not as penalizing.
Yeah.
You can get away without power steering, but then you reach F3 and F2 and you see the drivers, you know, a lot of them, you know, I've got some friends in F3 and F2, and a lot of them obviously, you know, they're saying that they have to ramp up their training because of how physical it is. And some tracks, you know, it's so hot as well, so the condition varies and it's physical, and it's so limiting even for the boys, you know. So imagine for a girl, because racing is a sport where it is so physical, like driving a race car in extreme conditions, you know, non-stop. The further you go up, the longer the races are as well, and the faster the car is. And then you reach to Formula One and you're like, oh gosh, I didn't actually need all this training.
Like you or other women,
so life.
like you or other women could be completely dedicated, training 5-6 times a week, and you may not be able to get to that kind of peak performance for F2 and F3.
Exactly.
But if you had to go in an F1, you'd be absolutely
really
fine.
But
It's
that's the thing. And, you know, and people say that, oh, because girls can't perform in F3 and F2, they don't deserve to be in F1. But actually, this is the main limiting factor, is that, you know, yes, physically we can train and we can work out and we can do the 10 million different things to be physically fit. But reality is that it will always be, you know, a hindrance, because we just aren't built like that, you know. Like a guy can work out once a day and he'll be fit, you know, once a week he'll be fit to drive a race car. We have to work out probably twice a day, 7 days a week, just to even level with a guy, with guys. And even then, it's not really. So it's so counterintuitive. But, you know, I feel like this is something that will require time before actions being made. It'll require, you know, a lot of, you know, voices and yeah, it is disappointing.
Do you feel like you're one of those voices? Like, do you feel that you're inspiring girls? Because you definitely are. But do you feel that in yourself?
Well, sometimes I get a bit disappointed because I wish my voice was loud enough to actually make a change. Sometimes I feel so stuck. Again, you know, it's like, you know, I'm one of those drivers struggling because of how physical the car is, you know, and I'm one of those girls, you know, alongside, you know, the drivers I race with, and obviously, you know, the season 2025 F1 Academy champion, Abby Pullen, is competing alongside me in the GB3 championship. So it's only the two of us competing in GB3, two girls. And, you know, I've had chats with Abby, and, you know, we all know, the whole paddock knows of how physical the GB3 car is. And yeah, no matter how many times we say it, we scream it, it's just like, it's something that still, you know, that still hasn't really changed much in the sport. And it is a bit frustrating sometimes, but I do hope that the next generation won't have to go through the struggles we did.
Yeah.
Or hopefully, you know, next year maybe they'll put in power steering. If
Again,
GB3 is watching this podcast.
All goes back to money, doesn't it? 'Cause then adding the power steering comes in, the cars get more expensive, then all the drivers have to pay more each season. And yeah. But I think it's maybe something that's necessary to kind of help level the playing field. It's probably one of the next steps to help women in motorsport.
Yeah, I think it will make everything just so much easier, because then you can actually focus on performance without the worry. It's something
that you have in the top level anyway, so it naturally makes sense.
It just
to
bridges
kind of
a gap.
have. Yeah,
it's also awareness as well. Like, I had no idea that was a thing. I didn't know that there was.
I remember my first F3 test. By the end of the day at Paul Ricard, I could barely turn it. Really? And I'd been training all winter. Like it is really physical.
Yeah, especially
F3 and F2.
I remember, my first test, I did a Euro Formula test. So Euro Formula is like, it used to be the old FI F3. Yeah. And I drove first time in Silverstone. And so they have the F1. So they've got Cops and Abbey, which is flat.
It's
supposed to be flat. I remember turning for the first time and just my arm went. I just went like, went like that. Wow. And going through maggots and bet kits and realizing, oh my gosh, I have to train a shit ton.
Going into, is it Stowe? I was just like
Stowe.
tensing. I was like,
Stowe.
You almost can't even think about actually driving relaxed because it's just
you can't.
like,
You're bracing. It's like a roller coaster ride. You just always kind of like.
Yeah, you just hope at that point, just turn in and hope.
Talking about roller coasters, do you think you're like an adrenaline junkie? Like, do you love the adrenaline, or is it more like the strategy and that kind of side?
Yeah, I remember like my mom telling me when, stories of me when I was a little kid. She'd say that I never took no for an answer. So apparently I was a bit of a chaotic little kid. Was always jumping off of things and doing things I shouldn't do. So I think I do revolve myself around adrenaline.
Yeah.
A lot. I think I'm driven by it a lot as well.
And would you say, because I ask people that question quite a lot, like especially when that like female athletes, and then my next question is always, do you think you're a tomboy? Because when girls say yes to that, sometimes like I think in sort of the old days it was like they were such a tomboy, like that was such a phrase that was used because what they were doing was very like masculine.
Boisterous,
Actually, like we were talking to Lotta the other week and we asked her what does she do for fun, and she rides bikes and is constantly surrounded by mud, and what she does for fun, she just put her nails out and had like the most beautiful nails I've ever seen, and that was her hobby, and she loved being able to do both. And I feel like that's very similar to you, like you have the quote unquote masculine things that you enjoy, but also like you love the feminine stuff as well.
So that's actually so funny because like it's crazy how the sport has evolved, how freely you can talk about this now, because I look back to a decade ago when I was like 10. I remember that I had to nearly, change how I look to fit in the paddock a bit more. So the boys would talk to me and play with me and like treat me as one of their kind, I guess. So growing up I always would like wear baggy clothes and I wear like a hat and snapback and everything like that, so that the boys would go and play with me, because I guess little boys don't like playing with girls.
No, literally. They're scared of them.
I think that was or I scared them or they scared me, vice versa. So I grew up, I was really a tomboy. I was very tomboyish growing up because I felt like I belonged more if I was like that. And obviously now that's changed.
You can like the girl stuff as well.
I grew up and all of a sudden I'm like, man, I'm so feminine. I am like I remember like I'd wake up an hour early before going to track every single day so I can do my makeup. That's for me, It's like my inner peace is like I do that so I can be confident and be myself and just be happy, because I love the process of doing makeup. I draw. That's one of my kind of core hobbies. So I do draw. I do architecture. I love sketching and portraits. So I do that. So it's kind of like how I think of racing when I envision racing. It's the creative aspect of it, of like, looking at data, looking at graphs and looking at racing lines. It's similar to drawing, really, the same, geometry and angles and all that stuff. So that's what I do. And now I'm venturing into fashion because I'm very, very into that.
How has that been, getting involved in sort of, say, the fashion industry? I mean, I'm not versed on this, but so I see you do a lot of kind of working with brands and in the fashion world. How have you found that kind of jumping into that kind of new world? And 'cause obviously everything you've ever known is racing, and then kind of learning about that and becoming sort of a model or whatever you want to say. But it's obviously something entirely new and something you have to learn to become good at as well.
It's like a whole new language, a whole new world, really. It's so different from racing. I think I couldn't find any other, opposite ends, really, from like the most masculine sports, like the most feminine thing. And the fact that I get to combine and have like a really good medium, it's just like the best feeling ever. As I grew up, I realized that I don't want to cage myself into just this stereotype that everyone kind of built around racing. I wanted to venture other things and explore, other endeavors in life, and one of them being, fashion. I do it because I get to be so creative. When I go to like shoots, I get to be like a different person and wear different clothes and have different looks, and I'm like, oh wow, I get to be all these different versions of myself, and it's so cool. Like I get to be so expressive. And it's the same when I'm at the track. I feel like at the track, I'm also a different version of myself. It's the fierce, it's the strong. I'm brave. I'm the best version of myself when I'm on track. I feel like a superhero when I'm driving a race car. So I love that I get to have, those two different things and have that duality within me. But obviously, because it's not something that is commonly done, there will be lots of hearsay and kind of negative talks and about the whole thing, because it is different.
I think it's just because it's different though, because I was going to say I think it's really like inspiring, and I think actually like that's what little girls should be looking at. Like
for sure,
regardless if they want to go into racing or not, it's just being able to do both, like two things that are so different, and to be confident in both. 100%. I think that's really important.
Oh yeah, and it's like, again, it's the stigma of being so that, to be so macho, because you're in a world of racing where it's like cars and parties and girls and all this stuff. It doesn't mean that you have to, be that person and be that stigma. I know a lot of drivers that are very soft-spoken and gentle, love to read books and draw, and are also very, very much so themselves, but they kind of feel like they can't really show that part because racing is super like, macho and masculine and all that stuff.
But I think it's also like separating what competitiveness is, because I think it was like caught up with masculinity and like often toxic masculinity, like being really competitive and aggressive. And actually I think something like sport is a really good outlet for healthy competition in both like men and women, and it's a way to like, everyone has a competitive streak in them, whether it's big or small, and it's a really healthy way to like, you need to be aggressive on track, and it's a really good place to let it out, but it doesn't mean you carry that out of track. And actually you can come off track and be, probably a better person because you have an outlet for it.
Like, that's why I say, like, when I'm on track, I feel like a superhero, because it is the best version of myself, someone, who's aggressive but at the same time kind and respectful, because you need to have mutual respect when you're on track. Like, it's it is, we avoid it, of course, we avoid it to be, but it is a contact sport. You can have contact with other drivers and hit and crash and tumble and everything, so you need to have that mutual respect, because you think about it, it's not just putting yourself in danger, but it's also the people around you.
You need that respect and trust with everyone.
When you go racing side by side in a corner going speeds of 260 kilometers per hour, you got to trust that person.
There's always some guys I never trust. It's like, I'm not going around the outside of him, not this time, not today, not today. I'm not naming any names. Not today.
Lando. Have you actually raced in Lando?
We did in karting when we were 13. I remember a couple of races. There was like a winter cup race. Me and him were 1 and 2, but he was always jumping up the categories earlier than me. So he was even in senior karting the year before me, and then F4 he won it in 2015. Then I won it 16. So he was always kind of a step ahead.
Him? You absolutely hate him from there.
No, I mean sometimes I came in, I looked at the timing sheet some session, I'm like, I don't know how he's really done that lap, but then I didn't like him. But no, we've always been.
See, that's what I like about boys. They just like, he's fast. Hate him. Anyways,
it would never last. It would never last.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Obviously, you're a racing driver, but do you like cars, as in road cars?
I don't have a license.
Really?
So because I left home 16. So
actually, when on earth would you have the time?
I've got time
to learn how to drive.
Yeah, I mean, I do know how to.
I think you.
I haven't put it to test yet, but I think I know how to drive.
Yeah, should be right. I mean, I failed my life test first time, so.
Okay, I feel better now.
Yeah, no pressure. Good drivers fail first time.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
But are you into cars?
I am into cars, 100%. Like, obviously, like growing up, watching Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift and all that stuff. Huge JDM fan. Like, grew up in Philippines where JDM scene is really
cool.
massive. And I've always been into cars. But I was never into building them, actually. I just really enjoyed driving them.
That was another question I had. Are you into the mechanic side of it?
Well, that, yes, because I was going to study engineering. Like, if, you know, like, initially I wasn't supposed to be here, to be honest. I wasn't supposed to go the distance. Because during the pandemic, I actually quit racing for 2 years. So I wasn't, like, I'd accepted it. I've, you know, dealt with my demons and I've put everything to rest. And I was like, yeah, I'm done. It's over. And that's all right. You know, I won races, won championships in Asia. I lived out my dreams, even though it didn't go as far as I thought it would, but I did. And I was fine with it. But my manager, well, he wasn't my manager then, but he's my manager now. A guy named Darrell Young. He's a racing driver from Hong Kong. He's won like Bathurst and so he's an endurance driver. He's got a race team called Craft Bamboo Racing, and it was 2021 where he was actually venturing into media and marketing. He was going to start his company called CBR Media, and he messaged me because I knew him through racing. He sponsored the championship that I raced for and that I had won. And so he was like, let's keep in contact. We didn't really keep in contact, but he did message me 2021. I remember I was 16. He was like, what are you doing? I'm like, retired. I'm going to go to uni. Yep, going to go to uni. I'm going to get my degree. Wow. Maybe find my way back to racing, engineer. And he was like, no, you're not doing that. No. Like, yeah, you know, there's already, you know, there's not many female drivers in Asia, and you gotta go, you gotta push for it. You know, now's the time to risk everything, like quite literally risk everything, like leave everything behind and just go for it. And so he ended up becoming my manager, and he's the one that, you know, really pointed me towards the right direction, and my career is what it is now because of him. He's guided me in every single way. He's like my dad, really. Wow. He's taught me like everything, all my morals, my values, who I am as a person, and the ins and out of obviously marketing and media and the whole thing. How
important is that team around you? Like, who is your like team that either follows you around, or like these are the people you contact? And
so that's the thing. I am
your circle.
I am a one woman team, really. Well, you know, like I do everything. I shoot, I take contents, I edit, I post, write press release. Obviously, I've got my manager, and I've got a few other people that help me kind of build the brand and everything. But I do most of like the actual labor job, like which is...
How do you have time for all of this?
Yeah, I'm surprised you do your own editing and press release. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so, so answering that, English actually isn't my first language. So I speak Tagalog, because that's where from Philippines. That's our language in the Philippines. So I didn't speak English and so 5 years ago, I didn't know how to speak English, really? Not fluently, at least.
God.
Like I knew words, but like putting them together and right grammar and all that stuff. No, so I taught myself how to speak English properly, and reading books and watching movies, because my manager told me that the only way for you to build your brand is to be able to communicate and to share your story and be a storyteller, because that's what it is really. Your brand, you're telling your story, and how are people going to understand you if you can't even speak English? So I taught myself how to speak English, and then
teach me.
That's nuts. I didn't know. You would never know. Like, I thought you'd been fluent.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm glad.
That's
I
nuts.
think I'm doing all right then.
Yeah.
But sometimes I get
Definitely.
confused because there's no rules with English.
That's horrible.
Like on, at, then, there, using all these
Still
different
figuring
things.
that
It's
out,
like
don't worry.
the airplane, in the airplane, on an airplane, so it's so difficult. But yeah, I'm still learning. I need to get my lessons in again. But yeah, I had to learn all of that, and I had to learn how to edit videos and edit photos and take pictures, because you got to build your brand and you got to post content, because they're very important.
But at the heart of all of that, was it still the racing? I'm doing all of this because I want a seat in that team, in that car.
But that's the thing. That's what it all came down to. Like, if I didn't do the posting, if I didn't get the million views and I didn't get the million likes, I wouldn't have been able to attract all the sponsors to fund my dreams. Like quite literally, you know, it's like, you know what they say is like, you know, it only takes one person to watch that video for them to change your life.
Yeah,
and that's what it was for me.
Yeah.
Exactly. You never know who's watching. And I guess that's why it's been like such an important part of my journey because of that, quite literally, you know, I was able to fund my racing career out of videos and posts and Instagram and social media. But it is, again, a double-edged sword because it takes a lot of work
and time
and effort and the knowledge to, you know, obviously you gotta, if you're working with brands like, you know, Quadrant and On and like, you know, all these, you know, big companies, you gotta produce some quality content, you know, you can't just be like half-ass. So yeah, I had to like really do a good job and do a quality job at the same time, be a racing driver and train and
crazy.
It can be intense.
Yeah. So what are your goals now then? Because I mean, age 20, you're doing pretty well. Where'd you go from here?
What's next?
That's a pretty big
That's
question.
Such a tough question. You never know. Again, you know, like what you said is like always trying to fund the next year, and I guess that's what you really do is like, you know, you think that you know, this year's sorted, got my funding in, I can just focus on racing. No, you can't.
It's not. You do round one and you're already trying to perform and think about the next season. It's already getting organised.
Exactly.
It's non-stop.
It is. And like, obviously, because you want to sign with the best team, you gotta, you know, you got to talk with a team so early on into the year. They're going to ask for a down payment and the first quarter and this and that. And like initially you already need money after already spending money for this season.
You're already paying for the next year while still racing this year before.
It is, you know, that's what life in motorsport is. And, you know, it's not very commonly spoken about actually. So I'm actually really glad to be able to speak about it right now and be so open about it. But obviously, you know, for me, I want to obviously continue racing. That'd be great. But, you know, recently signed with Cooper Kiro in Formula E as a development driver. So I've got my rookie test coming up in Berlin.
Awesome.
So focusing on that, you know, again, it's one of those things, performing in the moment, you know. It takes one test that I do well and it can change
the whole trajectory.
The whole trajectory, my whole career can be changed by just like one.
Have you driven a Formula E car yet?
Yeah, I drove a Formula E car.
What was it like?
Fast actually.
They've gotten a lot faster, haven't they?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know what it would be like.
Yeah, so top speed now is about 200 miles per hour. So it's quite rapid.
It's quite
It's actually really fast.
Does it feel really heavy though?
Again, no power steering.
Savage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
even with all the battery, like, you know, when you turn in, do you feel like the cars? It's super heavy compared to like a GB3.
Because it also they don't have aero.
No,
so they don't have
or
aero.
slick tires, or are they slicks now?
Exactly. No, they don't. It's still.
You have to then adapt to. It's another driving style.
I was going to say, how do you just jump in and say like, yeah, not a problem?
Exactly.
Figure it out.
Figure out as you go. Be like
halfway around Silverstone.
You break. Oh, that didn't work. So
let's try again next lap. But I guess I feel lucky now because we do have the luxury of having simulators that do feel close to driving the real car. But again, it's still prep before you get in the car. That, like, you know, it's everything. Prep is everything in racing. So learning as much as you can about the car and track and all that bit, it helped. But like with Formula E, it's such a different animal. It's such a different beast compared to anything. You know, it doesn't feel like F4 or F3 or any single seater. No. It's like a car. It's a different, you know, car itself.
There's no like stepping stone to Formula E.
There's none really.
It's like you do all the single seater stuff and then you just try Formula E. It's completely
different. Like the braking technique is different. You can't peak because they don't want you, because they have regen braking. So you got to make sure that you're only.
How hard is the brake pedal?
Like, it's quite stiff, but you can't smash the brake pedals.
You have to go slowly.
Because you can't activate the mechanical brakes because they want you to use regen braking to conserve energy. To charge
Is there a lot of engine braking? Is that something you have to adapt to as well?
You do get a lot of regen, but you have to like stay within this certain threshold. So if you over brake, you kind of lock up and then conserve too much energy. which in hindsight is like really bad if you're racing, because then you have less energy to use in the straight lines. So it's like
My brain
That's
is...
a lot to take in.
My
yeah.
brain
it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So Formula E right now, I think that's taking up my time. Obviously, alongside GB3, my main season.
Probably go back to GB3 and like, this is nice actually.
It is
Just
that, like, I'm
no
not playing
regen.
dry.
Just hit the brake how I want.
Exactly. Again, it's like the more like the further you go, the less pure it is.
Yeah.
It becomes less of like pure and raw driving, because then it's more of like critical thinking and strategy, and obviously setting up the car. You know, like in F4 you can get away with like a decent setup. It doesn't have to be the best, but obviously you can see in Formula 1 the best car.
Yeah. Well, like, even when I tested F1, it was my first ever push lap. It all happened so fast, and it's, you know, F4, F3, you get away, you don't brake perfectly.
Yeah.
F1, it's like, that has to be perfect, and you've got half a second by the time you're already at the exit
Exactly.
of the corner.
And you lose so
everything
much.
has to just be perfect. Compared to F4, you know, you can slide a bit and play around.
Yeah, in F4 you get away with
F1, it was just
everything.
like, brake in, downshift, this, like, all happened at once. It was insane.
Yeah, it's funny because like in F4 you can get away with like locking up all four wheels and like not really lose that much time. And like as long as you make the corner and get the throttle, it is like, oh, it's fine. But like in F1 you have to abort the whole lap, right?
Yeah, and like
So-
you remember, I had one snap, and luckily it didn't snap the other way. But F1, like F3, you get on the power, you're like, oh, you can control
power
it.
slide a little
That
bit,
is
yeah.
just, it's 1,000 horsepower. And I was like, okay. And then I just,
It's like you're driving
you
and you have
nearly
to tell them you
crash,
sit
and
down.
you just don't talk to yourself. I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm on a
Yeah,
cool down
that's-
lap, guys, now.
Yeah,
I just want a minute.
Just nearly done 600k worth of damage.
that is so funny, yeah.
But there's no room for mistakes in F1 really, which
And that's
Adds to
still
the pressure.
That's still the dream though. F1.
Oh, 100%. Like, you know, I feel like that's everyone's dream.
Yeah.
You don't really lose that dream, I feel. Like a little bit in you still lives in there and like still, you know, yearns for like being in Formula 1. Obviously for me it is my trajectory. I'm doing everything I can to get as close as possible to it. To, you know, got the rankings like FI, F3, FI, F2 and yeah,
and
F1.
then one day you'll be on that grid.
so that's the dream.
That's going to be pretty exciting to see.
Thanks to our friends at Revolut. If you're in the UK, US or Australia and haven't signed up, you can get £20, $20 or 40 Australian dollars just by signing up with the link below or scanning the QR code on screen and making your first transaction. If you didn't know, Revolut is used by over 55 million people worldwide, helping you manage and make the most of every aspect of your finances. Revolut makes currency exchange very easy. You can spend in lots of different currencies and exchange at great rates. Even if you've got to exchange in-app, Revolut automatically converts your home currency to the local one. You can even view live rates in the app, so there are no surprises. And it's got useful security features to protect your money even while you're abroad. Say you lose your card or are worried someone has your details, you can freeze the card in-app in seconds, order a new one straight away and use the virtual cards while you wait for the new one. You can check out Revolut in the description below.
Should we ask our question?
Our question.
Your questions, oh gosh.
We ask all our guests this, and it is, what is your first memory of motorsport? It doesn't have to even necessarily be like driving for the first time, but what is the first time you saw motorsport, heard about it, whatever it may be?
When I was 3, when
3.
like it was my earliest memory ever. Like
Wow.
as a kid, like I think back to like, you know, my childhood, and the only memory I could really think of that is like so vivid is like when I first got in my baby car at the age of 3 and driving it around, and I remember just like it's the first time I felt so alive. Like I couldn't stop jumping up and down. Like the whole day, even like the drive back, I remember just like being so wide awake. And I'm
It
like,
gets you that first time. straight
it does.
away. It was
And
like
you hooked.
unbelievable.
And that was it. That
I
was
couldn't
what you
stop
wanted to do.
thinking about it. I was like begging my parents, can I go back? Can I go? Can I go?
It's literally
please?"
exactly what I did.
It's like an itch.
Yeah, it's
And
insane.
so yeah, I think that was like the first
That was the one.
memory. Yeah, that was the one. First love, fell in
That was
love.
it. Led you all the way to this podcast studio.
Exactly.
Nice.
To be here today.
We've got a second question as well for you. What would you tell your younger self in the paddock? Because obviously you've been in and around various different paddocks for a while now. And I feel like you're, like, from talking to you, you sound like you're at a point where you're pretty confident going into the paddock now. You know who you are.
I've dealt with my demons.
Yeah.
I think, that's definitely what it is. A lot of us, we go into a room and we have those very loud voices in our heads telling us 10 million reasons why we shouldn't be in that room. But then once you've dealt with it and you're fine with it, it kind of all just opens up and realize it's not as scary as I thought it was. It's not a horror story like I told myself in my head.
Yeah.
So if there was like an advice I could give to myself in the paddock, it's probably to worry less. I feel like I spent so much energy worrying about things that never happened. Like half my existence, really. Half my life gone wasted overthinking about those things. I feel like if I just stop worrying about that, worrying about what people think, if this person will like me, if I'm driving the next race the next year, the next season, I think I would have lived life a little bit happier if I didn't spend all this time thinking about that and actually just being in the moment, being in the car, being in the paddock, being with your team and just savoring every moment of it, not spending those limited days, because that's what it is. You have limited days to perform and to drive and be a driver. It's not 24/7. It's not there's 365 days in the year where you can be that person. So in those special moments, in those days, savor it and don't worry of what the future will be or what the sacrifices were made to be there. It's
I think that's pretty good advice for anyone. Not gonna lie, I'm gonna say
maybe I should take it more.
I wish I could say I resonate with that. It's spot on for sure.
Well, Bianca, thank you so much. I feel like I've learned so much, and
thank you very much.
You are
It's been
such an
amazing.
inspiration.
Thank you.
I'm gonna try. Do my best.
Best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and I'm sure we'll see you again
We'll be watching.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure. It's so cozy here, actually.
It is. It's a bit
boiling.
hot now.
It's a bit warm. I'm actually
Let's get that
sweating.
AC cranked up, chaps. It's hot in here.
Woo!